Did you take advantage of Ubiquity's special pricing here recently and decide to go from this to this? Well, you guys are going to need an upgrade plan. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Merry Christmas from the Ethernet Blueprint. My name's Tim Tretch. Now, today's video, we're going to be talking to those of you who decided to take advantage of the special pricing that Ubiquity had when they knocked $100 off their UDM Pro and UDM Pro SE, and maybe you decided it's time for a little upgrade. Now, making a switch from one piece of equipment to the next can be a little bit time-consuming sometimes and troublesome. The good news is Ubiquity makes it fairly seamless, and today we're going to talk about what's the best way to go from a cloud key to the UDM Pro or UDM Pro SE. Both will work, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. Make sure you watch this all the way to the end, because I'm going to show you another way that will limit the amount of downtime you have as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and kick things off here. I want to introduce you to the hardware first, and then we'll take a look at the settings that we have, and then we'll get into the process. So right now we have a UXG Lite for our router. We have our Cloud Key Gen 2, 16-port switch, 2 access points, and a camera. So we're going to be transferring over both the network application and the Protect security application. I have set up things on these accounts just to kind of show you that the settings and everything will transfer over. And we're going to walk through what process you need to go through in your home to get this thing upgraded. But first, I just wanted to let you see the hardware so you kind of knew what we were dealing with. All right. When this is all said and done, the router and the cloud key will go away and be replaced by our UDM Pro over there with my coffee sitting on it. All right, here we go. All right, secondly, I want to take a look at what settings we have set up so you know that everything transfers over. So you can see that we're connected to a network called EB Network, and we have our cloud key up here. So that is our controller that's running the show right now. And if we go over into our devices, you can see we have several that are green lit up, including our ceiling cam, just because it's been pointed straight up. We have a couple APs that I went ahead and named, lefty AP, righty AP, which righty AP looks grayed out. I'll have to figure out why that is. We have our UXG Lite, we have our cloud key, and we have our 16-port switch. Okay, if we go into our settings here, you'll see I created a couple Wi-Fi networks. One specifically is a 5G only, and it's on VLAN 2. Again, just creating some things. Now, full disclosure, I'm not going to do any VPN configuration as part of this. However, your VPN stuff should transfer over as well, just so you know. But I don't have any built into this particular network. If we go over to networks, we have our default network and then our VLAN 2. Again, just creating something that we want to make sure that we can measure this at the end of the day. And then if we go over into Protect, you'll see we have some footage. Now, full disclosure, guys, your camera footage won't transfer over as part of this. And I looked into this a little bit deeper, and just Ubiquity doesn't have a really good way to do this. There are some third parties that can do it, or if you back up you have your thing connected to a NAS, you'll have your storage there. But to take your clips off of the cloud key and put them onto the UDM Pro or UDM Pro SE is not going to happen. So as part of this, you will lose your footage. Now, everything's still going to be on your cloud key, so I'm sure there's a way you can access it. But at the end of the day, right now, as it stands, you will lose all your footage, but all your settings will come across. So our camera, which is named Ceiling Camera, will come across. If I click into there and go to recording mode, I have it set for events only. I turned off audio. I just kind of set a couple little things in here just to show you that it does transfer over. But it will only do your settings, which is kind of a bummer. I wish they would bring it over, but I suppose if you had like an 8 terabyte hard drive in one and a 1 in the other, it kind of just makes it a little tricky. So potentially, hopefully Ubiquity comes up with a better way of handling that. If we go into our OS console, you can see that we don't have any of these other ones installed, and we're running 3.2.7. So guys, step one, just so you know, you got to be matched on both your OS versions, okay? So the cloud key is running 3.2.7, which means our UDM Pro needs to be running 3.2.7 as well, which I'll get into here shortly. So not really much in settings in here, just the name of the network, that will transfer over, things like that. But there really isn't much going on in here specifically. So we're going to go ahead and get this process started. Now you've seen what we're working with, what we're going to move over. Let's get into the steps that you're going to need to take to make this happen. All right, guys, step one, we're going to power on the UDM Pro. It's fully powered on, and we're going to plug the WAN port into our current network. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we're going to log into this thing. We're going to just set it up real quick. No spatial configurations or anything fancy. We're just going to set it up real quick, and we're going to make sure, and we're going to update it. We don't know how long this thing's been sitting on the shelf. You know, you need to make sure it matches. So step one to make sure this goes smoothly is to get it a network connection, and we're just going to go ahead and plug it into the network that we have. Then we're going to log directly into it. Okay, so let's get that plugged in. So I've got a cable here for that. All right, so my laptop is plugged into here, and the WAN port is plugged into my current network. So then we're going to log into this thing and set it up real fast and make sure that it's fully up to date. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, guys. So a couple different ways to get to the site, but I will tell you, if you're unsure about what IP address to go to get to the homepage, if you just scroll through on your little screen on the UDM, it will tell you its local IP address. So in my case, it's 192.168.0.1. But you can also just type in the Unifi // and it takes you to the screen automatically. Now, we're not going to do any configuration here, guys. All we're going to do is set this thing up, and we're going to make sure we're getting it on the correct OS version. So we need to be on 3.2.7. So we're just going to go ahead and say next. All right, we have an account, so we'll go ahead and sign in. Go ahead and put that in there. Okay, we're not going to restore from the backup. We're going to say continue without backup. Now, to keep things moving along, I'm going to go ahead and skip the speeds. I have 300 down and 120 up right now at my house. We'll go ahead and hit next. Okay, so we'll let it go ahead and let it set up the console. Now, once we're in here, we're just going to run your updates. Again, you don't know how long this thing's been sitting on a shelf. We don't know what version it is, but we'll go ahead and get them so they match. That's really the trick here, guys. You're going to want your OS versions to match. Okay, so we'll go ahead and say go to dashboard. Now, it brings us right in there. Don't worry about not having Protect installed or any of the other stuff. And if you see we go into network, there's nothing in here. It is just clean slate, no Wi-Fi networks, no nothing, right? So now, I tested this ahead of time. I'm on 3.2.7, but one thing I wanted to point out here, when I was trying to force my UDM to be on 3.2.7, which is the most recent version, and I think Ubiquity's kind of been slow rolling it out because a lot of the devices I have out there that I manage, they didn't all pick it up at once. It kind of staggered in on different sites at different times. So if for some reason you can't get it, your device, you get up to like 3.116 and it just stalls there and it will never give you the button to update. What you can do is you can actually change this to release candidate and hit apply, and then it'll prompt you to go ahead and update to 3.2.7. So I don't know if this version's kind of in limbo right now or not, or how that really works with Ubiquity, but that's what I had to do to bring this up to 3.2.7 because I got up to 3.116. And that's where I stopped. And I was like, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll let it sit overnight and it'll check at 3 a.m. or 12 a.m. And it didn't. It stayed there. So the way I had to override it was to do that. So once you have this ready to go and you're rocking the same version on both, okay, then we're going to go back over to our cloud key and we are going to run a backup. So we can actually do that from here. Go ahead and get signed in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go into my network here. So here is the network that we need to copy over, the EB network. You can see we're running OS 3.2.7. We have all our settings. Now, what we're going to need to do is run a backup of the OS. Now, I'm going to take a couple additional steps, but they're just insurance. That's all they really are. You shouldn't need to do it. All right, so we're going to do the big one right here. We're going to go over into our OS settings. We're going to go down to our console settings, and we're going to do backup now. So you can see the last backup this did was yesterday at 10:10 when I was playing around with this. So we're going to go ahead and say backup now. It's going to save a copy to the cloud, which is really cool. And so it'll be easy to get to. It'll also save a version of it locally for us, which is great in case we need to upload something. Now, that's all you really need to do from that standpoint. You could do just that and do what we're going to do and be just fine. Now, my insurance policy, and again, I'm not sure what you gained in all honesty, but I like to just make sure we have multiple backups here. So I'm going to go into the network application. I'm going to go down to settings and go to system. And then I'm going to go to backups, and I'm going to go ahead and download a configuration file backup. I'm just going to do settings only. I'm not worried about logs or any of that stuff, but we're going to just to make sure we have it in case something goes wrong, which I don't foresee happening, but just to be on the safe side. Oops, I don't think I saved that, did I? Yeah, I wasn't hitting save. All right, so we got that. I'm going to go back in here real quick. We're doing this kind of raw here, guys. We'll go ahead and run another backup just so I have a copy local of this too, because I don't think I hit save last time. I think I just assumed it saved it for me, but it didn't. So we're going to go wait for that to pop up. Go ahead and say that. Now we're going to go over into our Protect, and we're going to do the backup there as well. So we go to Settings and System, and I'm going to just go ahead and hit Download File. Now, I really had hoped that this would download a copy of all of your clips and things like that too, and I ran it multiple times, and it doesn't. So that's kind of a bummer. Okay, guys, so now that we have everything, what we're going to do now, we're going to leave the Dream Machine exactly as it is right now, and we're going to put it in the mix. So I'm going to take out the cloud key. I'm going to take down the UXG light, which I'll show you here. And then we're going to restore this device. We're going to make this the router. So this is your downtime, guys. You're going to have to unplug your router, unplug your cloud key, plug this into the mix, right? And get it online. Sometimes it needs a reboot. Sometimes it just doesn't pull that IP address from your ISP right away. So depending on what your setup is, you might have to reboot this. So that adds a little bit more downtime. But we're going to make this our router. We're going to take the other two things out of the equation, and then we're going to restore all of our settings on here. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to switch over to the camera now so we can do that. All right, guys. So like I said, probably casting the shadow in here, but we're going to remove this. This is my internet line, this blue cable here. So we're going to remove that. We're going to go ahead and remove my WAN cable from here because this is now going to be running our Dream Machine. Okay, so let me get a little extra slack here so it'll go up there. All right, so we're going to plug that in. And then I'm going to take out my cloud key. Okay, so that is no longer online. And then my light is still plugged into the switch. So basically we're going to unplug this cable so it just has power. It's no longer connected to anything. And sorry for the cable mess here. And we're going to plug that into our LAN port. So now this is our router. It's got our internet coming in, internet coming out, going into our switch, and then our switch runs our other devices. Okay, we've made this the router. So now let's go back over to the computer, restore configuration, and take a look at the results. Next, guys, it's time to restore the backup that we took to our UDM. So if you look up in the top right corner, you can see that we're on the UDM Pro. And we're in the console settings, and we're just going to choose restore. Now we want to make sure we choose the EB network. That's the cloud key. And then we just choose the time. You remember I did 2 because I forgot to save one. So we're just going to choose the most recent one. And then we just need to enter our Ubiquiti account password. Now, just above that, you'll see a checkbox that says you can restore all applications and settings, or you can, if you uncheck that, you can actually just pick and choose. I only want to restore certain things. There's also the option to upload your file. So remember, we saved a copy locally. So if you wanted to upload it from your computer, you absolutely could as well. But this gives you the ability where it'll just download it through the cloud as opposed to uploading. So we'll go ahead and hit restore, and it is going to start the process. Now I'm going to fast forward through all this so you don't have to listen to it, but we'll pick right back up when it gets done. All right, guys, that is it. When it completes, it'll bring you back into this screen here. And now let's go click around. So if we go over here to network, you can see we have some devices. We'll go over to the dashboard. Now you notice our thing is named EB Network. So if you want to rename this now that it's the Dream Machine, maybe it's EB Dream Network or something, whatever you want to rename it, you'll have to because it does pull in that name information. But all of our devices came over. Everything's named the way it was, lefty, righty, but there's just no cloud key anymore, and there's no UXG light anymore, right? Everything is where it needs to be, but without those devices. If we come down here, excuse me, you'll see that we have our two Wi-Fi networks, the one on the VLAN 2, our networks are still created, everything is still in there. And if you had some VPN stuff created on your network, original network, that will be there too. All right, let's head over to Protect real quick. So if we pop over to Protect, if I look at my devices, you can see I still got my ceiling cam. If I click into it and go to recording mode, you can see that I have events only still, audio is off. So all of those things that we had preset, my camera is still named, like I said. So it's looking good, but if we go into try to play, go back and play, you can see that we just can't go back for as like we could before. The timeline is not going to go back how you had it before, unfortunately. So if you decide you want to change the network, you can come back over here into console settings, and we can just go into this, call this Dream Network. Okay, so EB Dream Network. So you know there's a little bit of a difference. So we just rename that. We have our devices, users, and there we go. You can see everything's up to date, everything's working, everything's set the way we had it before, which is really, really cool. So let's sum up our findings and wrap things up here, okay? But wait, I did mention that I would let you in a little secret that could help lower your downtime when doing this. Now, when the box is restoring and the devices are doing what they're going through, things are offline. And that's what happens when you restore the UDM while it's plugged in, while it's being your router. So you do have the option to keep the router plugged into your switch like we originally had it in the beginning when it was getting its internet from the switch and the UXG light was in there and the original cloud key was in the mix. You can restore this Dream Machine in that state. Then your internet's still working with all of your other stuff. And then when the restore gets done, you simply unplug the Dream Machine, unplug all the unnecessary equipment that you're getting rid of, plug the Dream Machine in at that time, and basically your downtime will be the time it takes to boot up, and your devices will have to discover the UDM. But it should eliminate some downtime. Because when I was restoring this, and it took, like I said, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes, there's some downtime in there where things just don't work. But if you restore it while it's sitting off to the side of your network and get everything in there ready to go, then it's just a matter of plugging in a router that has all the configurations ready, letting it boot up, removing the other stuff, and that will help lower your downtime to make this thing a little bit more speedy. So the choice is yours. It really just depends. We typically, this is a lab environment, right? We got as much downtime as we need, but that is something else you can do, and hopefully that helps you guys out in your journey. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys found this helpful. Like always, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate you being here. I love doing these videos. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment area, and we will see you guys in a future video. Thanks. Okay, guys, bonus content on Ethernet Blueprint. Gotta love it. Yes, I love that stuff. All right, so little tidbit here. If you are concerned about the losing of the recordings, and maybe you want to save some clips or you forgot to do that, you can still do it, guys. So if you look here, you can see that I just simply plugged my cloud key into the box. It's just plugged in the switch, it powered up, and then it came online. It got itself an IP address. It could be seen from the internet. I didn't wipe that. We didn't wipe it at all. We just unplugged it. So I connected to that network here in my list, excuse me, and went over to Protect, and here they are, right? Here's everything that was there. Now, granted, there's not a lot on here because it was a thing, but I can go back to the 18th. There you go. That was before we ever did anything. So this is when I was just kind of setting things up. And I can go back, you know, pretty far. So kind of a cool deal, guys. If you do need to pull a clip off, you can download a clip simply by clicking down here, download clip. It'll ask you how long you want, the duration, the timeline, and you could download that, a copy of that to your computer so you had it just in case. Maybe there was a theft in your driveway or something you want to make sure you have. Save locally. You can absolutely still do that after switching over to the Dream Machine or UDM Pro. So pretty cool. And I just wanted to point that out, guys, because I think there's going to be some of you out there be like, oh, crap, I wish I would have remembered to do that. Well, guess what? You still can. All right, guys, signing off for real this time. Have a great night. Have a Merry Christmas, and we will see you in a future video.